Talk story. Ano ʻike aloha kākou, aloha. Yeah, welcome. Mahalo for coming. Some from as far as Ocean View, which is pretty far. I hail from the land of Kihalani, is our ahupuaʻa. The district is Laupāhoehoe, and that is in the Hilo Akau, in the northern part of Hilo, is the district. And so it took about 2.5 hours to get here. Usually takes 2 hours, but I think I hit the after work traffic, so I might have beat you, but it's not a competition. But yeah, welcome. Mahalo for coming. I am mahi'ai. Simply put, I am one who cultivates food in an ancestral, pleasing way. And I am grateful to spend time and share space with you all. Good to see some familiar faces, some new faces. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so to open this space, I want to just mahalo all of those that are involved here. Thank you, Lou. Always honor Peter, even though I heard he's not technically, but we still love you, Peter. You're still a part, yeah. He's our advisor. Yeah, still, he's the advisor, so. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah. And all of the wonderful staff that I met today and old staff and volunteers I know. Hey, good to see you. So, yeah. Okay, so to open, I wanted to share, we don't have too much time today. I want to just take up maybe about a half hour of your time blabbering, and then another half hour I want you guys to talk to me, and that can guide the path of what the end of this will look like. But don't ask too much questions, because the sooner we end, the sooner you eat. So if you're hungry, just don't ask questions. Works out for everybody. But yeah, so wish I should have brought a drawing board, but I'm gonna explain it to you then. So the phrase that I wanted to share with you all is a olelo no ʻeau. It's a wise idiom or saying from our kūpuna, and the olelo no ʻeau goes like this. It says, Mai Ho'omāuna kaʻai, o huli mai awa neʻi, o hāloa e nānā. And what that phrase means is that it says, the way Puku'i translated it is, don't be wasteful of food, or hāloa will turn around and stare. And to most people, that doesn't mean very much, but to me, it means a lot, because when you're raised in Hawaii, you know what it feels like to have an older sibling turn around and give you that look, yeah? And you know, I know that look. Most people that grew up here know that look. We grew up in a culture of a lot of, our parents demanded respect, right? We had to be humble, and so as we got older in life, my parents didn't need to pa'i me anymore. Pa'i is, we'll just say it's this motion right here. For kalo, pa'i means to snap the kalo together. But as we got older, we didn't get pa'is anymore. We got what we call visual pa'is. So no hands were laid on us, but the look, yeah, is what, like, we felt slapped by the look. And so my parents, my older sister, they all had that look, okay? So when we talk about not being wasteful of food, or hāloa, or turn around and stare, there's multiple ways we can interpret that. Another term for ho'omāuna is abuse. So when we think about how, I started to like open these visions up in my head of how we as Kanaka, as humans today, abuse food. Now there's one more thing we can add to the sentence that changes it entirely. Instead of Mai Ho'omāuna kaʻai, o huli mai awa neʻi o hāloa, you could put Mai Ho'omāuna āina. And what that means is, don't be wasteful or don't be abusive of land. Right? Land and food are synonymous. Aina is ai, it's just reduplicated. So aina means that which feeds. And so when we think about it in that context, we really learn how our kūpuna viewed and cherished this land. And so what are we doing internally, and how can we do it better and closer aligned to make sure that our kūpuna, including hāloa, doesn't turn around and give us that look, right? And so I love that Auntie, I hope you don't mind me calling you Auntie, but yeah, it's out of respect. And she brought all of her kūpuna with her, yeah, and same with you. I know all of your kūpuna are always with you, especially the ones that love you and care about you, even though they're not physically here. So we want to honor that space. When we talk about hāloa, we honor that space of the unseen and also the seen. All of you passed Haloa on the way here. Did you guys see where he was? You had to look, kind of look in the distance a little bit. Anyone see where Haloa was? Anyone know who Haloa is? No. What's this guy's name again?
Joe.
What's up, brother Joe? Can you bring the pots outside, please?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce you to Haloa real quick. This is dramatic suspense. Woo! Look at that. Beautiful. Okay. Now do you guys know who Haloa is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, an older brother. And who do you guys refer to Haloa as? Kalo. Very good. Some people say taro. I think we'll put that on the, yeah, mahalo. Okay. So, yes, so Haloa, ula poni, I can already tell. From the modeling on the back of the leaf, the color of the ha, the subtle purple stripings right here on the bottom. Okay. So this is Haloa. Haloa, ha is a stem, loa is long. Can you tell why they call this Haloa? Yeah. Okay, so here's some kauna behind it, some symbolism behind it. If I say ho'olelo, Hawaiian word that you don't know, tough luck. I'm not going to explain it, but you can go figure it out eventually. There's Hawaiian dictionaries online, and it takes a lot of time to translate, I guess. So just pick up. If you don't understand the words I'm saying, pick up the feeling of what I'm saying, if anything. So yeah, Haloa is this plant, but the origin of Haloa comes from the origin of the Hawaiian people, our kūpuna, our Kanaka. And not just the Hawaiian people, in the Hawaiian cosmology, all Kanaka, all humans come from Haloa in our worldview. And so other worldviews have different origins of who the first people on earth ever were. And Hawaiians have this view. And here's the symbolism behind it. So Wakea is the sky, the firmament, everything above you. And that is our, like a sky father in our history, right? And then we have Papa, who you guys have spent a lot of time with. You walked on her all the way over here from wherever you parked your car. She's our earth mother. Papa is anything flat. So some of the reefs at low tide, those are a Papa. There's a Papa right behind, uncle right behind you. That's a Papa. That's a Papa ku'iai my friend carved. His name is Keawe. He's an amazing carver. Not super practical. I wouldn't want to sit on that as a ku'i because it looks a little bumpy. But I had to tease him just in case he sees this video. Okay, so, but Papa's anything flat. So it's also the earth. And so when you have Papa and Wakea, they get together, they have Ho'oho Kukalani is birthed. Ho'oho Kukalani is the stars in the firmament. So Ho'oho Kukalani is a wahine. She has a son. And as she births this son, he's born a keiki alu alu. And in English, one way to define that is a stillborn or a child without life. And so that first child is the first human child she plants in the eastern side of her hale. And so with that, she starts to ue, she starts to cry, and she sheds these tears called ha lo'i lo'i. And ha lo'i lo'i is a tear that's so plentiful it actually creates lo'i or wetlands underneath her as she's crying. And she goes into her hale. The next morning she wakes up, comes outside, and guess what is growing in that puddle of tears? Kalo. Or haloa. And so literally our older brother, our oldest brother, gave his life so that all of us can have life today. Kalo is super significant to us in many ways. You can tell the significance of a plant to a people by the amount of words and stories they have around that plant. For example, I know a lot of native, or like more like South, like some of the Aztec people, they have lots of stories around circling corn or maize, and all of their origins go back to that plant. In Tonga, a lot of their origins trace all the way back to the ʻawa plant. In Hawaii, we have multiple origins. We have stories of ulu where Ku sacrificed his life, but Kalo is the original one. So Kalo is, if it wasn't for Kalo, all of our kūpuna would not have been able to survive in Hawaii when they first got here. So just a quick question, interactive, right? This is gonna get boring if I just talk the whole time. When our kūpuna first arrived here, the very first people to arrive in this pristine Hawaii, right? No mosquito Hawaii, no mongoose Hawaii, no rat Hawaii, you name it, wasn't here, okay? Cockroaches, centipedes, they weren't here. When they arrived here, what was there for our kūpuna to eat that was already growing here? Fish, very good. Anything in the sea. So we have our i'a, our sea urchins, our limu. Yeah. Anything in the kai. What else? Hapu'u fern, the inside starch of the hapu'u. Yeah, they definitely knew how to eat that because that tree ferns exist other places. What else? Perhaps. There's a theory out there that they may have arrived pre-contact, but most accounts think they arrived post-contact of humans. They were brought here. They've done tests where they've tried to test the viability of a coconut floating across the nearest island with coconuts. Even in a storm, it wouldn't have been viable by the time it got here. But who knows? Maybe. So maybe. What else?
Certain types of manu.
Lots of types of manu, yes. So we have our traditional moa. Moa is a modern word for chicken, but it's not the European chicken you see today. We have many mo'olelo of these moa coming into towns and just killing people. I mean, they're just demolishing towns. We have these stories of people getting into full battles with these moa. We know that these moa were large flightless birds. But there are fossilized eggs that you can find. They might have one in the Bishop Museum. I know Angela Kepler put one of the pictures of the fossilized egg in her banana book, The World of Bananas. And it's just this massive huamoa, this massive egg.
So they were really here in Hawaii?
Yeah. Guess
I
why?
know they're in New Zealand after all.
Yeah, I think ours was a little bit bigger even.
Oh, really?
It may have been flightless for a longer period of time.
Okay.
Larger rat heights.
Yes. But why do you think they're not around today?
We ate them.
You know, like the Maoris, they don't.
Delicious. This is like a turkey dinner every night, right? So
Ate all the birds.
that's why they're not here today. But we know we have stories. So go ahead.
No, I'm like, oh, look at that drumstick.
Yeah. And the reason why we don't have fossils of them is because bird bones are hollow. Even though they were land walking birds, they were still hollow. They would long be biodegraded by now, no matter. We don't have a glacier necessarily that could preserve them. And they wouldn't live on Mauna Kea. So anyway, all that's to say, there wasn't much to eat, right? There was fish and hapu'u fern and birds. And so aside from, where does your complex carbohydrates come from? They need to bring it with them, right? Where does the sugar come from? Well, that's why they brought coal. Because when they got here, they realized that mamaki berry and ohelo berry aren't very ono. Like they're edible and they're good, but they weren't very sweet. So they had to bring the sugars with them, right? And so they brought kalo with them, planted it, and that's what sustained them. Kalo has everything you need to sustain human life. To this day, California is a large purchaser of poi from Hawaii, and they store these bottles of liquefied, super watered down poi in their fridges for babies that are born in California that are allergic to their mother's milk and every other milk that exists. They eat poi because poi is hypoallergenic. So again, getting off the topic, kalo is a big deal to us. That's why when we're saying don't do anything that makes haloa turn around and stare, that's a heavy, heavy pressure. It's a heavy kuleana. It's like saying don't let your ancestors down. That's really what it's saying. And so what are things that we do modernly, not you personally, but we as a people, that would make haloa turn around and stare? Give you that look like, have you guys heard the term stink eye? Okay, that's the kind you can smell it before you actually see it, right? But no, that's a joke. But really, you can feel the presence of someone like looking at you like, yeah. And that's really the feeling I get when I hear this olelo no eo. It's saying, don't do anything that is gonna offend or cause shame upon your family from your ancestor, haloa, because he's looking. Now, on the flip side, if you're doing things that are right and pono and correct and life is just, you're doing the best you can, when you look at haloa, he's actually happy and he waves at you, right? If you look really closely, he throws a little shaka, yeah? So, but that same wave, when you're doing something wrong in life, meaning you haven't been in your mala and there's a bunch of weeds, meaning you're spraying poison right next to him and the overspray is landing on him, meaning you're feeding him synthetic food like chemical fertilizers. These types of things actually displease haloa to the point when you look at that same move that he just made, it's almost like he's nodding your head in disappointment at you. So now when you're in tune with it, you can kind of tell. And some people think we're crazy, that's fine, but that's how we communicate with plants. And I think you guys are all plant people, you understand that concept. But yeah, when I was in college, I used to run a farm, and it was right next to a sidewalk that was very a lot of people pass by. And I would always be out there singing to my kalo and talking story to my kalo. And I remember a lot of people pausing, whispering, pointing, laughing. But it didn't bother me because that's what my kūpuna did. And so I just remember thinking, well, they just don't understand. They don't understand the connection that we have. Those are disconnected humans. And now, there's definitely a line. You don't want to cross a line and be like, I don't know. It's hard to say, but you can go from deeply culturally rooted to like, I don't want to say it. I think hippies are amazing people, and a lot of you probably were hippies. That's fine, but there's this kind of like stigma that they've taken it, them being who they are plus a little bit of the drugs. They go into this weird realm, and we don't want to go there with culturally relevant plants, but we want to stay like rooted, and so. There's a borderline there, but making sure that we can connect spiritually. That's the most important part of who we are as Kanaka. We are spiritual beings, and we connect in the spiritual deeply. And so with that, when I drive around my neighborhood, I feel like there are a lot of farmers that do things that make Kaloa turn around and stare. Not to be judgmental, a lot of times it's the way they were taught and they don't know any other way. And even if you share with them other ways, they're just like in that, they don't want to hear it. So that's fine too. But I kind of cringe when I see people in hamakua. I don't know if you guys are familiar with hamakua, but it's basically like that. And it's already been super desecrated by the sugarcane industry and then the cattle ranching industry. And now sweet potato and ginger are kind of the industries that are really damaging our lands. They like to till up the soil. So they're disconnected from kilo, which is like astute observation of environmental indicators. And they have a hard time understanding how to predict weather. But if you spend time on ʻaina, weather is very easy to predict, especially if it's multi-generational knowledge, right? Maulia honua. We call it a multi-generational knowledge keeper. The colors of the clouds, the shapes of the clouds, the coldness of the wind, the twinkling of a certain star, the fruiting of the ulu, all of these things are indicators as to what that season will bring, what the next day will bring, what the next week will bring. So you're able to predict weather really well as a mahi'ai. And as we go deeper into this concept that we talk about, all the different aspects of what it means to be a mahi'ai, I call it a multiverse. Uncle Jerry called it a universe. In the description, we call it a macrocosm. And so what we're looking at is a bunch of different fields that a mahi'ai has to be an expert of. And that's an Uncle Jerry concept. He said that he was in a generation where mahi'ai were not valued. And again, you're going to hear me referencing mahi'ai and farmer. They are two different things. We will talk about it after. So mahi'ai were not very valued in his generation. They were, I know when my grandma found out I was a mahi'ai, she was not super happy, right? Because Hawaiian grandmas of my grandma's generation, they were like, go be a doctor. We worked hard so you can go to school to be a doctor. I went to school, got my degrees, and I wanted to be a mahi'ai. And that's like, for their generation, they were raised very European, very American, and they kind of shake their heads like, oh my gosh, my son's gonna be a farmer. Like, no, I'm not, I'm a mahi'ai. So Uncle Jerry was saying, to be a mahi'ai, you have to be an expert in every single field that you would have to take in every single class that they offer at University of Hawaii. You would have to be a biologist, a chemist. You have to be a microbiologist. You have to be a meteorologist. You have to be a soil scientist. You have to be, most mahi'ai are expert contractors. They can build anything. They're expert mechanics. They could go to any trade school and master the trade school because they already have all of these things. And so what he was trying to get at is you have to be a master of every practice, every realm in order to be a true mahi'ai. And that takes time, and that takes effort, and it takes multi-generational knowledge. But it's possible. And so the difference between a mahi'ai and a farmer is that a farmer in my brain, this is not like a literal translation, this is in my brain. So don't correct anyone, like, oh, that's not what a farmer means. Like, no, whatever a farmer means to you, that's great. What a farmer looks like to me, because it's an English word, I have these, I spent some years in the United States of America, in like traveling through everywhere from California through Idaho, through Montana, just kind of looking around those areas. And when I think of farmer, because those are the first farmers I ever met, which is not, it's a stereotype. There are amazing farmers, that are doing it right. But most of the bulk of the land I saw was just a monocrop, right? All corn, genetically modified corn, all soy, all Irish potato, all sugar beet. And whatever, as you're driving, you're just seeing like these massive, and the way that they treat land is it's like a mining business. It's like they're mining and mining and mining, and there's no give back. And so when I think of a mahi'ai though, a mahi is someone who is a cultivator of. It's actually a very powerful word. Like Kamehameha's largest army as he conquered Hawaiʻi, as he conquered Maui, Molokai, Oahu. He didn't conquer Kauai. But yeah, as all that happened, his largest army that was led by Kaʻiana, who's my kūpuna, it was the most powerful, feared, largest army. So that gives you an idea of what that word mahi means. Mahi is large, it's grand, it's powerful. And so to mahi'ai, that's a super empowering title. I would never want to go, no matter what degrees I have, don't ever call me any of those degrees. Call me a mahi'ai. That's the most important title I could ever have, aside from father and husband. Those are my two. But yeah, mahi'ai is amazing. And when you do presentations, put that next to your name if you are one, because that pulls more weight in Hawaii than PhD. It pulls more weight in Hawaii than all of these other titles and accolades. So with that, and here's why. I work with some PhDs, and don't let them touch my kalo patch, because it's being recorded. I'm going to change the topic. So love our PhDs. Go get your PhD and then go be a mahi'ai. Okay, so the universe, the realm, macrocosm of what composes a mahi'ai. Back to the people that I see tilling the land, that they till it right before the big rains come, and we know when our big rains come in Laupāhoehoe, and all of that water comes and pushes all of that topsoil to where? Well, first, like a gulch, a river, a stream, and then to our kai, and guess what happens when it gets to the kai? What happens to the lepo? Does it just disappear? No. What does it do?
Disperses into the ocean.
Okay, where does it rest first? On the corals. And we wonder why we have a fish population problem. When I was flying over from Maui back to Moku, Keawe, we took an interesting route, and the skies were clear. And I was able to see almost all of Hamakua and Hilo. And there was a beautiful brown laying around the outer portions of the island in the ocean. And that brown lay is our precious topsoil. And I was thinking to my head, I was like, that's a problem, because you all know, you're ʻaina people, it takes a long time to build a few inches of topsoil, true topsoil. And so we're losing it all to these mahi'ai practices, and I believe that makes Haloa turn around and stare. So what have I been doing in my life that makes sure that Haloa is not turning around and staring? I remember when I was in college, I was doing a bunch of research, but I would always communicate with others on this application called have you heard of the Facebook? I think the center has one, yeah. Someone was talking to me about it. But so I was on the Facebook, and there's an application of that, like another feature that you could send like a personal message to somebody. And I would do that all night with Uncle Jerry. Talking, that's how we talked, because he didn't, that was his thing towards the end of his life. And one day I was sitting on that, and I was looking out my window, and all of my kalo were covered to, I couldn't even see them anymore. The weeds had taken over. And I felt terrible, because every day before that I had walked by it, and even though they were calling out to me, I ignored them. I wanted to get in and get on the social media. That was the last time I ever had social media. I haven't had it since then. And I never will. Because if I have social media, there's a very good chance that I will look back and Haloa will be staring at me. Because my mala would have weeds. And so what are we doing in life that is taking up our time that should be dedicated to āina, that should be dedicated to our ʻohana, that should be dedicated to haloa? And what can we remove out of our lives to make sure that when all is said and done, we look at haloa and he's staring with a stare of approval, with pride. Yeah? And that's really what we're about. Now in Hawaii, I want to just clarify, that's not to say that we should shame others for anything they do. That's not to say that, but shame was an important part of our culture anciently. And what that means is that it wasn't frowned upon like it is today. It was a powerfully motivating factor in terms of you never wanted to shame your family, your name, because if we have these gifts given to us, we better take care of them, right? And if you don't, that's shame. And shame as in an internal shame that you feel. Like you knew you could do better. That is a very important feeling, and it should motivate rather than bring you down. And so I am so grateful that I learned this lesson about not doing anything, not being wasteful of food, not being wasteful of land. Like if you are at your house and you have 30 something acres of just grass and it looks like a professional golf course, is haloa going to be happy about that? Or is there things you can do to make sure that you're not being wasteful of of food, of āina, of land? And it's a phrase to help you to think inside yourself and kind of be more conscious of how we can all do better. That's really what it's an invitation to do. Again, it feels like I'm preaching to the choir. You guys are all very on my wavelength, and these are the kinds of people I like to talk to about it. But I did need to share it with you because it's a phrase that's been standing out to me a lot, because I've been in these circles of people who come from the sugarcane days. They're cherished memories of those days, and you don't want to look down on it, but we have to be real as well. So I am grateful that Haloa gave his life so that we could have life in terms of having nourishment, in perpetuity. I am a warrior for Haloa. I fight for Haloa, both in my garden against the weeds and also in the political realm, in the legislature, submitting testimony, fighting with the University of Hawaii to stop messing with our kūpuna by hybridizing it, genetically modifying it, fighting with people in Florida and California from taking our plants, hybridizing it and selling it for profit. I just feel like I'm a warrior for our plants, because when we think about our plants, they are like people. All the words we have in Hawaii trace back to this. When you think of aloha, alo, right? Ke alo o ka lau is the face of the lau, and ha is the stem. When you think about ʻohana, right? It's the there's none here, but it's the babies that come off the plant are oha, and ʻohana is a group of oha around that mom. Our term for parent is makua. A mom is a makua hine, a dad is a makua kane. This mama plant is called a makua. I mean, you name it, and everything that is in our language actually ties back to this plant, including Hawaiʻi, right? You think about the ha that grows in the vai comes from E. And what is E? E is a supreme source, a supreme being, if you will, but it's also a supreme source. And so even the term of where you live comes from this plant. So we got to start really analyzing, why is this plant so important to our ancestors, and does that mean it's important to us today? And the answer is yes. The more that we eat haloa, the other definition for haloa, ha is also breath. Yeah, you go, you hear that, yeah. Ha is the word for breath, and loa is long. So the more that we consume kalo, the longer our haloa, longer our breath becomes. As a Hawaiian people, our bodies digest this better than anything else. Wherever you guys may come from ancestrally, some of you from Hawaii, some of you may not be, I encourage you to eat those ancestral foods as well. But haloa can be really beneficial to you health-wise. We don't need to get into the health benefits of it, but just know that it's super beneficial. If you want to know what they are, the USDA published an article years ago. They tested one variety, which is problematic in and of itself, but one variety of cooked kalo, one variety of cooked luʻau, the leaf. And it will far exceed any green that you eat. It will far exceed any carb or starch that you eat. Yeah, you won't eat pasta again. You won't eat bread again. You won't eat potatoes again. This is a super important plant for us. So again, the realm of a mahi'ai is analyzing all the different areas you have to be an expert at. And you guys are experts in those places, you just don't know what to call them, or you never really thought about it. But you do these things like weather prediction, right? You look in the sky, like you see that dark, big ahupuaʻa, we call it, a black cloud, and you know you're gonna catch cracks soon. Okay, wrap it up, guys, let's get in, right? Those aren't the days you go to the beach. So you do it internally already. But as a mahi'ai, we're able to really internalize that, analyze it, and then produce from it. So the better you can be at kilo, or that astute observation, the better you can become masters of all the realms of a mahi'ai, the more efficient you become as a food cultivator. Because you increase your productivity and you decrease your labor. So you're getting a higher yield with a lower amount of labor. And that's just the way our kūpuna did it. Amazing, brilliant inventors. And all we're asking is you follow the trail of what our kūpuna started, and you continue that on. Because our kūpuna had thousands of years of ancestral knowledge, of scientific research, right? Of observing, writing it down, passing on to the next generation. And their scientific methods took, if they needed 20 plus years to figure out, even 100 years to figure out which kalo variety grew best in this location, it's fine, that's what it took. But today you don't find science like that. Today you find science that has a timeline and a budget, and once one of those run out, you're done. So does that make for shoddy science? It does. Even though they think they're brilliant, and I love scientists, there's a role for it, that's a flawed system already. That there's a timeline and a budget, that's a flawed system. So when you talk about ancestral knowledge, you're talking about a flawless system, meaning many generations have proven that it works. And so ancestral knowledge is not, I'm not saying it's better than, I'm saying that for me, I am going to believe that before a Western scientist any day. And when I say Western, it doesn't make any sense because we are not. When people say Western, they mean like Europe, but they're east of us, and so is America. Unless you go all the way around, right? Yeah. But I think it's funny that we use the term Western science. I just thought that, yeah, anyway. I like to think about words that I use, but. Okay, wait, we're gonna pause there. I wanna know what the questions you have, because not all of you came here to hear me talk for the rest of the day. But I did glance down and see ʻelepaio. So this is ʻelepaio. So uluponi, ʻelepaio, and this looks like ku'oho. Oh no, this has a spot. This is pa'akai. Ooh, is there a label? Oh, piko eleele. Oh, it has the splotching. This is probably mislabeled. I don't know who did this, but so pico, this looks like pa'akai. Pico eleele, the sides would be cut to the pico. Yeah, all of our pico varieties have a cut right here. So, but beautiful plant. I'm not saying anything about the color. You're beautiful. Anyway, so here we go. ʻElepaio, again, this is the brilliance of our kūpuna. When they name something, they laced multiple generations of knowledge into that name. And so just like you, when you named your kids, if you have kids, when you name, I don't know if you name your dog, whatever it is, usually naming in Hawaii is one of the most sacred responsibilities you can have. And so when you name someone or something, you usually sat on it for a long time, and it would come to you in a vision, a dream, or whatever it might be. But yeah, this kalo's name is ʻElepaio, and there's multiple members of this family. ʻElepaio, you guys know what ʻElepaio the bird is? Have you guys heard of the ʻElepaio bird? Okay. So there is a species of ʻElepaio bird that has spots under its wing. That's what this is named after. But more importantly, the ʻElepaio is also a word for the Milky Way. And when you look at this kalo plant, it mimics the entire splotchiness and patterns of the Milky Way. If you were to get your eye telescope out and just look with your eye, you would see that right there. And some are even more mirroring the Milky Way, where there's like a milky background with the splotches in between. And that is in honor of the way that our kūpuna observed the skies. Anciently, when our ancestors looked at the skies, they didn't do this for the entirety of the night. They would just fill up a ipu or a bowl of water and look down at the reflection, and then they could flip that mirror in their brain and navigate. Nobody likes to hurt their neck. Yeah, I guess you could lie on your back, but yeah, they just would hold the ipu like this and just look at, they would memorize the star lines looking down, like you're reading a book. Yeah, or they could go to a pond. They have ponds that are named after kilo, or observations of the skies as well. A still pond, and be able to see the skies. So if you were to look at that, you would exactly see this right here. But there's multiple layers of kauna for that, uluponi and pa'akai. we're not going to get into all the names of the kalo, even though we could spend like, maybe 3 years in that mala alone, talking about every variety, their names, their stories, their traits, their personalities, everything they like, everything they don't like, where they're from, which families grew them, where they like to grow. We're not going to do that. But if you want to, we can do that another time. But yeah, that's
How did we get to so many varieties?
good question. So the prevailing thought is that our ancestors did know how to hibernate kalo. They knew how to cross-pollinate the kalo. There is actually some evidence that there was a fruit fly that could get through. So when you look at the pua kalo, the flower of the kalo, it's the summer equinox. Are we near that? Some of the kalo in the plot should be flowering then. Do you want to try run?
They were in Hilo just a couple days ago.
Do one of you think you can run to one of the workers and see if there's a flower in the plot up there? Yeah. Anywhere in the plot. So we'll wait to talk about the flower till Bill gets back, and then. But yeah, good question. The larger prevailing understanding, because when the University of Hawaii at Hilo did the DNA sequencing of our kalo varieties, they came back so close to each other that there is a large chance that they are all somatic mutations, meaning they adapted to place over time and became a stable trait, and that, yeah. So there's also a little bit of horizontal gene transfer, and again, I know that's controversial in some of the botanical realms, but our kūpuna knew that the roots talk story underground, and the way we know this is because when I plant a kalo like this, who's not supposed to have white splotches on here, next to a kalo like this, or next to our ʻaʻa or the manini banana tree that's variegated, he'll take on the variegation. So you can't tell me it doesn't happen, but I think the roots just go underground, they talk story. Yeah, like humans do, and then new traits are born. So this is probably a mislabel, yeah, but no, I don't want to put, no, you know what? You got it. It's correct. But, yeah. I'm not blaming anyone, and yeah, it's all good. May I
ask a question on
yeah.
hybridization?
Yeah.
You said that you were basically against hybridization
Yeah.
on the mainland.
Yeah, anywhere.
And why are you against that if that's exactly what happened?
So if a hybridization happens on its own, I'm not against it because it's supposed to happen. I don't like when humans try to play God and create new. And here's the reason why. Who are we to say that what our ancestors left us is not good enough? It's more than good enough. Uncle Jerry's main thing he used to always say is no blame the kalo. So often a mahi'ai or a farmer is growing a kalo variety and they say, oh, this thing is trash, throw it away because it's not doing good. Well, is it the kalo's fault or is it your fault? And 100% of the time it's the farmer's fault. And so that's the problem is was that the right kalo for that location? Did you create the conditions for it to really thrive? Were you feeding it steroids in the form of fertilizers, or were you actually feeding the āina that feeds the kalo? And so there's multiple ways. So here's my issue with it. I'm not going to say. There is a university that is here in Hawaii that that thinks that there's a problem with kalo, and they blame the kalo. So they're trying to create a super kalo. I call it a Franken kalo. And they're trying to create a kalo that matures super fast, very little work, and creates a giant corn. Okay? So they're trying to push kalo genetically past what it wants to do. And I don't like that. I feel bad for that's like what people do to dogs sometimes, where they like hybridize the crap out of a dog to the point where they have a smash face and they can't breathe anymore. Like, I feel bad for that dog. I feel like that's taking it too far. And so I'm just a defender of my ancestor. I don't believe anyone should do it unless they can state their intention and it is a right and a good intention. And I don't believe that unnamed university has done that yet. I believe that they're out for profit. They love to create these new varieties and then put control over it. And then all of a sudden we have to apply to them to get that variety of kalo. Like, that's not how it should work. Huli is freely given and freely received always. So there's I guess multiple layers as to why I'm against it. Thank you, Naval. The biggest reason, I just don't trust people who do it. That's the biggest reason. Not to say I have to give them permission. I don't. People do it, but it's created a nightmare for people like me who identify kalo. I know all of our kūpuna kalo, like my kids. My wife gets mad at me because I have more pictures of my kalo on my phone than my kids. But, and I love my kids, but I have more pictures of my kalo. And that's because there's so many more of them, right? In my database in my head, I have every image and every variant of that image of what a kalo can look like in every location in my brain of hundreds of varieties. And so when someone creates their own and releases it without releasing a genealogy, right? Who do they come from? That's a problem. UH won't release that. The unnamed university won't release that information to us. How come? How come we can't know who it is? Yeah.
So one step further, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm really passionate about it. Yeah.
But if this is a superfood,
Yeah.
and you can feed people not just here but elsewhere,
Yeah.
with the hybridized version of this
Yeah.
that grows not here
Yeah.
but somewhere else, isn't that a benefit?
It is. My recommendation though is find the superfood that grew in that place anciently and grow that superfood, because everywhere had their superfood. But don't take one superfood from a people and spread it across the places it's not supposed to grow. I think find your superfood and grow it. Kalo was the superfood for anywhere about 10 degrees above and below the equator. We're talking ancient Egypt grew tons of kalo. We're talking in Asia, we're talking in South America. So kalo is not specifically Hawaiian, but our varieties are ours. So yeah, find the kalo and hybridize it and do your thing. But please leave our kūpuna alone. Like, they just want to be here and be happy, and my kids deserve to inherit these heirloom varieties. This is the best gift I can give them, is an heirloom variety that the parent of this huli was handed down from my parent, from my grandparent, right? It's a family heirloom. And so when you take that heirloom and you tweak it, and then that heirloom disappears, I'm very concerned about that, because with that, it's not just a disappearance of a variety, it's a disappearance of an entire story, an entire genealogy. There's a lot that disappears with it. And kalo, for the longest time, has been disappearing. About a variety a year we lose that's in established collections. Pigs, humans, whatever it might be, drought. So that's what I'm about. Yeah, I until someone can come to me and tell me all the varieties that exist today, I'd rather not create more varieties. The cat's out of the bag. UH has done it to a large degree. Can you edit that? And I'm not trying to be a hater. UH does amazing things, but this part I don't like, because some of the people that have done it have monetized it, put patents on that variety, and now they own our ancestor. It's a half ancestor, but it's still, the concept of it is so un-Hawaiian. It's just not in our realm of understanding. So that's really what I'm about. But yeah, this is the pua. I won't show you how to hibernate it, hybridize it. Hybridize. If you know, you know. If you know what flowers are, you know how to do it. But you can look in here already and see a bunch of pollen. It's on my finger. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, so the reason why kalo can't hybridize itself, which is a brilliant move, is that right here in this neck, it's choked out. So kalo cannot self-pollinate itself. This is the male, okay? In case you guys don't know, this is a male. Okay, this is a female, and it opens up, okay? And the male has, okay, you know how this works, right? Okay, so with that though, luckily, the female is only fertile for about 30 minutes of one day. And if you don't know how to tell, you can't do it. So, yeah, there's a lot about it. Kalo cannot self-pollinate because there's a neck here, and so the pollen can't drip down into itself. It's a way to make sure that other pollen has to pollinate it. It's pretty smart. Yeah, I think I'll stop there, but I just want to share with you that this is what the female looks like. These are unfertilized eggs. This is the neck I was talking about that chokes out the pollen. These eggs are unfertilized. When the eggs are fertilized, each one of these different colors right there grows to about the size of a pea, and that pea contains anywhere from 100 to 1,000 seeds in it, microscopic seeds. And yeah, so there's another problem. With one successful hybridization, you can create tens of thousands of new varieties of kalo that once they're out, and they all have mostly undesirable traits, meaning they'll run, they're hyper aggressive or super itchy. There's going to be an undesirable trait in almost all of them, except for maybe one. Our kūpuna have already selected that one. you know, that has desirable traits for both food, it behaves in your garden, right? All of those things. And so, yeah. Anyway, I want to get off hybridization, but thank you for the question. And if it seems that I'm passionate about it, I'm very passionate about it, yeah, because it's a sensitive subject for mahi'ai like me right now. Some of the legal things we're facing, yeah. Yeah, the 10-year pause that UH committed to for not genetically modifying our kalo just ended. That's why it's not just, but pretty recently ended, meaning nobody really knows it, but they could go and try to reinsert that rice gene like they did last time and create a kalo, genetically modified kalo, and then patent it and the whole deal again. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just I don't trust institutions like that. I don't think they have the right intention. So, okay, but we can get off that. Any other questions?
One
Yes.
quick one. I'm just curious, when you first started getting into being mahi'ai, was there any particular variety that really stands out to you as a memory, something that you were like, oh my gosh, what an exciting one to learn about?
I feel like that with all of them.
Oh God, okay.
So that's the beauty of why I know all of these colors so good. They're like my kids. Like I can see a picture of them and know who they are, right? Like you could see your kid in the grocery store, but that's my kid. You know, out of a sea of kids in a school, you see your kid, right? And so it's because when they were introduced to me, it was like one by one. You know, it was like I would get one and I would have that one variety for a year or two. And then I would get another one, and I would have that for the longest time. And one time, a mahi'ai would give me 2 varieties from his lo'i. I'd be like, what? Jackpot, right? Double jackpot. I'm sitting here, I spend time with him, I learn everything about him, super intimate, and then I move on to the next one. But nowadays, people can go to any collection and get, 5 to almost the entire collection at a time. And what that creates is it creates a dissonance. It's hard for people to really get intimate with each variety. And that's why each one has been, a score for me. Yeah, I'm super, it's like when you open up that pack of like baseball cards or whatever you collect, or you're probably all too old for Pokemon cards. Pokemon, okay, Pokemon, right? I gotta catch them all. Like, I love, and when mahi'ai and explorers find kalo, they send them to me to this day, just to grow it down, identify it, and so I don't want to catch them all just to do it for fun, but I do want to make sure that we have them all when people want them. So if you're growing in a location and all of your kalo is failing, guess what? It's probably not the variety for your location. As long as your soil's good, everything else is good, come, let's find the one that is. We hold a waihona, what we call a repository, at our mala in Honoka'a, and we hold all the varieties, just like Amy Greenwell. But we hold also all the South Pacific, Southeast Asia, all of those kalo varieties as well. And then a lot more kalo varieties as well, undocumented heirloom ones. And so that when they are ready to go home, they can go home. It's just a temporary house for them, and when they're ready to go back to where we found them, they'll go back. But we got to make sure that we keep them safe, because the pigs in these locations will take them in a heartbeat. So, yeah. So all the varieties I collect, I get the family's permissions to have them, to take care of them, and to share them, so that we don't lose them again. So ideally, I never have to hold a collection. Amy Greenbell doesn't ever have to hold a collection. My goal is to put me and Amy Greenbell out of the kalo business, because it's so prevalent that nobody else needs to see them all, Whether that'll happen in my lifetime or not, I'm not sure, but that's my goal. So once a year, we host these events where we just give all of the varieties away to the people that want them. We try to give them to people where we know that they live and they match, so that they're out and prevalent and just flooded Hawaiʻi with kalo, all the varieties, so we don't have to hold them all anymore. But until then, we'll safekeep them. Yeah, yeah. And Amy Greenwell, they deserve a hand. They're safekeeping an amazing collection right here. So very grateful for them. But yeah, any other questions?
So
Yeah.
how do you protect these heirloom plants from all the things that are invading us now from everywhere around the world?
Could you be more specific? Like what?
Well, fungus,
Mhm.
insects, things that are not native to here.
Good question.
And you need to protect that.
Yep.
How do you do it?
That's a good question. So there's multiple ways. Whenever we transfer huli, we have sanitation protocols. Whenever someone hands a huli to, hey, I grow kalo, do you want to grow on? Okay, there's sanitation protocols before I can hand that to you. So there's that, and we're trying to spread education and awareness of that. More importantly than that, though, it all comes down to growing practices. When you try to push kalo beyond what he's willing to give, When you try to push ʻaina or land beyond what it's willing to give, that's when the diseases come. We've noticed it time and time again. And so instead of creating a new variety, we're trying to create better farming practices, place-based farming practices that are old, right? These ʻike kūpuna, ancestral knowledge practices of how to grow kalo in your location. This area was famous for one, right? They would take the huli, find the right pile of rocks, throw it on the ground and kick the rocks over the huli. And that's how you grew kalo here. And the kalo would grow. I mean, you know, softball size, but that's plenty of food. A softball sized kalo will fill the giant bowl of poi once you stretch it with water. That's going to feed your whole family. So if you have multiple of those, you're set. And so place-based practices is going to be super critical, both with fighting climate change, pests and disease pressure, invasive species pressure. Invasive species pressure, we just got to stay on it. If the mahi'ai are in the garden all the time, that the invasive species isn't that big of a deal. We can handle that. But it's the disease and pests that we have to be careful of. And there's ways to treat it too. Luckily, we have ancestral knowledge of how to treat that as well. For pests, well, there's diseases now that like taro vein chlorosis, certain ones that are coming in from Samoa that are tough to control. But we have solutions. Even with the leaf blight, Phytophthora fungus rot on the leaves, all you have to do is increase the airflow. Super simple. Increase the airflow. Don't walk through your garden at 10 o'clock in the morning when the spores are most active. There's ways to prevent it. Yeah, because if you're walking through and your shirt's rubbing every leaf, you're spreading it to every leaf. So there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it. Again, when you're in the realm of a mahi'ai, the mahi'ai are great innovators. They're brilliant. Not me, but all the people I hang out with are. And they are brilliant. There's always a solution for the next thing that comes up. The next one we got to find is the rhinoceros beetle. That scares me because they like kalo too. But yeah, but we'll find a solution. Got to train a bird to eat it, you know. Got to train the alala to get them out of the tree. And, no, I don't know, but yeah, you know that's more joking. But really, we do our best. And ultimately, I failed. I've lost a kalo variety before, one that only existed in my home. I mean, you know, I've lost some. It happens, but we try our best. And we have backups now too, not just collections like Amy Greenwell, Waimea Valley Botanical Garden. There's like botanical gardens and all over the islands, right, that hold collections. But we also have the Lions Arboretum, who's amazing, that holds them in tissue culture. So it's basically like tissue culture, propagation of the meristem of the kalo in a little bit of like sugary gel solution, and they keep it in a sedated, in a test tube. And then when you're ready, you can plant that out and it grows true to form. But we're also working with the Lions Arboretum to get our cryopreservation collection of this up as well. So suspending them over liquid nitrogen at a super high, like 200-something degrees Celsius. I forget it's in my notes, but yeah, just that you can store the cells in that super long term, and then they bring them out and they'll still be viable. So again, that's where science plays a role. Like, look, we can use it for beneficial things, but we got to know when we're crossing the line, and that's why, you know, you just gotta really be in tune, you know. Crossing the line is if you're ever doing it for financial gain. That's where it kind of crosses the line. Like with these people trying to make their own varieties to name after themselves. I don't know if you've ever seen those ornamental colors. They have ridiculous names like Blue Hawaii and Pineapple Express and Black Magic and Mojito, and right. They're named after alcoholic beverages usually. I won't tell you the name of the guy who's doing that, but when the camera goes off, I will. I'll tell you all the names of the people. And they take it. They patent it, they sell it at Home Depot in Florida and California, and they're making tons of money off of our ancestral crop. So it's not a jealous thing. I mean, I want them to make money, that's great, but do it in a different way. You know, leave our kūpuna alone. Our kūpuna they don't want to be in California. I mean, sometimes they're forced to because they can't afford it here, but they don't want to be there. They talk to anyone, they all want to be home. But yeah, anyway. Okay, other questions before we close this out? Yeah.
Every time I get sad, I run out and buy a new plant.
Awesome.
So, where should I buy my plants? I want to do the right thing and buy. I've heard bad things now about some places, so I don't know the best places. Is there something you can look up to? I mean, I always go to places that say the Pono. They don't sell invasives, but still, I'd like to go to the right places, because I will be buying more plants.
Kalo plants.
Oh, yes.
In general, there are really good places like for native plants that you can go. Like in Honoka'a, we have Michael Gibson. He runs elemental plants. I know on Oahu, Rick Barbosa, them have Huiku Mauliola. There's places on every island in every district that is a great resource for that. All the varieties of our ancestral crops. But the best way to do it is just to become friends with a garden that has a collection. And when you come to a work day,
John nursery sales. We always have-
yeah,
I was at your nursery sale.
Yeah.
I bought stuff.
I got you guys. I'm
We
trying to,
We give away the kalo.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But really, that really is they're trusted sources of people who know. Yeah, I like that. That's a great addiction to have, to heal your pain. Yeah, I do the same thing. I think I don't buy them, but I spend time in the mala to heal. Yeah, so yeah. Any other questions that you guys have about anything? It doesn't have to be anything we talked about. We probably went way farther into the hybridization than I wanted to. Sorry about that.
So if I take a variety that we're growing here
Mm-hmm.
and then give it to you over.
It'll change.
How much does it change? And can
A
you
decent
ident-
amount.
Do you identify it the same way?
Yeah, you can. You have to know all
Because
the
the soils are different over there than
Yeah.
here, different.
soil,
climates.
amount of light, sunlight. You're talking about the soil series, the amount of sunlight, the amount of moisture, the elevation. All of that will change what the color looks like. So the way I relate it is just like you guys. It's like all of us. Like when I spent time in America, I spent a few years there at one point, and I became so fair, I guess is the term, yeah, because I wasn't seeing the sun, Even just, I spent recently some time up in Alaska, and I came home, and my wife's like, wow, you look really, really pale. And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen the sun, And so just like we change and adapt to where we are, like since all of you are in Hawaii, your skin is darker here than it would be in other places. Color's the same way. Its skin changes color according to where it is. And
Does the corn change?
that's one of the last things to change. That takes a long time. Yeah, so for it to be a true somatic mutation, we're looking at 3 generations of holding that trait stably. Yeah, but they'll always throw random little things. Like I said, these two together, it'll throw a little variegation right here. Or that happens often. But what I always say is you have to know the different ahu of kalo. So ahu is like the adornments, the garments that they wear. So just like you, I would recognize you even if you change that palaka shirt into an aloha shirt. I would still recognize you because the core of you is the same. What you're wearing is different, but I still can recognize you. That's the same way I relate it to kalo. Yeah, it's the easiest way I can describe it, I guess. Yeah. More questions? Or are you guys just hungry? Yes.
But one was, I just recently learned my friend, he uses the pua.
Yeah.
Where is there a certain way you prep it, or is
Yeah.
there a certain traditional way that was used?
Yeah, so this part, I think they call it a spade. Is that correct?
Yeah.
This is the part you eat. I bet you could eat this, but I've never done it. And so, I don't know. You could try, but if your throat gets itchy, stop. So, by the way, you can't eat any of the parts of these raw. Do you guys know that? Okay, just making sure. Yeah, there's oxalates in there. I'm working with some students at UH in a positive light to do this project on studying oxalates and what the kalo oxalates do to your kidney over time. And luckily, nothing, because we break it down with heat. But yeah, anyway, to break it down, you just got to steam them. I like to steam them. They smell beautiful when you steam a whole pot of this. You can boil it, but you're losing some of the nutrition. But steam it and then put it in a Ziploc bag or a freezer bag or freezer container, whatever you use, and put it in your freezer. And then when you're ready, you can just pull it out and put it into your curry, your stew, whatever you want to make with it, your soup. And it's a beautiful, subtle flavor, but it's beautiful. Yeah, that's how you eat it. And you can eat the flour too once it's cooked fully. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess a short second question. Is there any kalo that was famous from Kaʻu?
Yeah.
Or what variety? I just want to learn more about varieties of things in that area.
Yeah. The most famous kalo from Kaʻu is Laupāhoehoe, and it's not here. Yeah, it's Nalovale. So Nalovale means in hiding, right? It's not. We don't like to say the kalo doesn't exist because we don't know. Right? We found so many that we thought were gone that aren't gone. So a lot of times kalo will just go into hiding and then they'll peek themselves back out and for us to find. And so yeah, it also, if you take kalo to ka'u, it may transform back into kalo pa'ua. So I encourage that too, right? Take all the varieties there and see if we can get it back. So that one was known to be one of the most drought tolerant kalos that exist. Yeah. So it was known for growing in like the deserty parts of Ka'u, but in the green parts of Ka'u, you can grow anything. I mean, all the varieties will do good there. But yeah, one resource is to look, well, two, three. You can look to Bulletin 84, which most of you already know, and that was published by the Bishop Museum. Three people kind of had their hands in that, Bowers, Takashi, and I forget the third one. Anyway, there's also Craig C. Handy's, Craig S. Handy's, Hawaiian Planter. That one isn't in print anymore, but you can find that at some libraries. They usually lock it up
I
because...
have a copy somewhere.
Really? The native planter.
Oh, yeah, native planter.
Okay. The Hawaiian planter is the edition before that.
Oh.
It's not, it has,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's super rare. And if you... So there was a point where they were disappearing from the libraries because online they were selling for like, you know, $7,000 to $8,000 a copy. So I have a PDF copy of it, but yeah.
Bishop Museum sells PDF copies for $20.
Oh, of that book?
Yeah.
Perfect. So there's that. And then the third one is Emerson and McCoffey, the Hawaiian agriculturalist. They have place-based knowledge of where kalo was found when they discovered them. Yeah. So Handy was amazing because he traveled all the different islands, all the different ahupuaʻa, collected varieties, got stories, recorded them. So that one is one of the better accounts. A lot of the other guys are quoting him. So, yeah. Anyway, good questions. Yeah. Yeah.
I have two questions. One, could you define somatic mutation for me? And it's two, I wonder if there's anything that you grow purposely with or right near the kalo.
Good question. So first question, no, I can't. Someone in here might be able to. Any botanical or smart people?
So it's a cellular, it's not your gametes that are used for sexual contamination, but it's just your ordinary cell types, and there's a mutation like some skin cancer, that's a somatic mutation to your skin, and then that can become malignant. Right.
Thank you.
You're the man. Thank you. That was awesome. So,
So for a plant, it became a new plant.
And then if it, yeah, and then if you keep repeating
Yeah.
that plant, propagating it after it's had its somatic mutation over time, it's
be a stable treat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mahalo for that. Yeah. And then the other question is C. Try C. It's different everywhere. So at my place, the kalo loves to go next to the ʻawa. I have introduced plants around my kalo as well, like vetiver, spaced out, but vetiver for my free mulch, right? You want to keep the mulch close. I have kalo growing within fields of perennial peanut. So I have them around native plants and introduced plants. And you just got to see. It's a trial and error. I failed so many times. I tried growing corn next to kalo. That was a mistake. They share the same pest. I tried growing a lot of things next to kalo, and it was, yeah, try. That's the thing. So in Hawaii, we have another olana no eau, another wise saying, and the saying is called makahana ka ʻike. So it means in the doing or in the work is the knowledge. So our ancestors actually didn't believe knowledge was contained in books. Yes, knowledge was contained there, but you didn't receive it internally until the action was done. So makahana ka ʻike, in the work, in the doing comes the knowledge. And so even things I share with you today, don't believe me, go prove it, right? Go out and test it and make sure that fits in your area. And that's what's beautiful about ancestral knowledge is it was place-based. I could go from here, walk, a mile that way, and that knowledge is going to be different, 2 miles that way, oh my gosh, completely different. The name for the kalo might even be different. And so that's what's beautiful is that how can we regain that level of expertise, of connectivity to our plants? And so try all kinds of things and let me know. I'd love to hear. Yeah, because I don't know this ʻaina very well. I'm a malihini, I'm a visitor here. And so yeah, wherever you guys are, try and let me know. I know that Peter and them have experimented with nanea as a cover crop, and then the kalo goes after that. I think they had a decent success with it. But yeah, they tried, and that's what's beautiful, just try. Peter, who does kalo like to grow next to?
Well, Nanea is the only one who really planted. We had near our
ulu and the Bauke kind of fight with it.
Yeah, the roots go in and they steal all the, yeah, just try.
Reno peanut
Yeah,
works pretty well.
and it's nice because, well, I forget the variety. It's like the golden something variety, but that one grows really low. There are printer peanuts that like get bushy and climb. This one just creates a nice thin carpet. Yeah, so yeah, the variety matters too of that, but just try. I love that. That's a good question. Your mind's thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
If we felt that we should, and we did take kalo up and plant it on our small farm, just up the road. And when we harvest it, when we huli it, it's too much corn, it's too much kalo for us to eat. What
Yeah.
should we do with the rest?
Oh, that's a wonderful problem. That's the best problem I've ever heard of. So you can freeze it, but the best thing to do is give it away. Find people to give it away to, because kalo is of more value than fiat currency right now.
Okay, but
Like-
if we take a bag of it and take it to a food bank or something like that, would
Probably not, unless you cooked it first. It's too much work for a food bank. Yeah.
just leave it at the post office? And we do that with avocados and bananas.
Everybody give this man your number. You know? No, but really create a friend-based, a local network of people who value that, and you automatically become the wealthiest man in the neighborhood. Really. You know, so anciently, your value as a human, your status in community was leveled not by how much you could obtain, not by how many digits were in your bank account, but how much you can give. The more you gave, that's what made ali'i ali'i. They knew how to give. And so in our communities today, still we value those people who can give a lot. And that's why I say my kalo is worth it, any fiat currency someone could offer me. We already know the price of kalo is ridiculously low right now. But also, my kalo is worth so much more if I give it away, because it comes back 7 times over, right? Sevenfold. It's just so much more valuable in a makana, traditional makana society. So not bartering, but if I give it away without expecting something in return, without keeping, my invoice, okay, I gave them this much, I don't tally. When I have abundance, I share it. And throughout the entirety of the year, those people that received it are giving things back to me. And so now all of a sudden I become super wealthy, not monetarily, but in every other way that I care about. And we've created a community where I live right now where when everyone has an abundance, our whole community is eating. And we don't use money. And so that is what I hope Hawaii can get back to, is to stop worrying about that piece of paper that you can't eat if something happens, and start worrying about relationships. Give everything without expecting to receive back, and watch the miracles of what Hawaii will do for you. I guarantee you'll be amazed. Because if I were to keep a budget of really what I was doing, I'm putting out way less than I'm receiving, which is the point of reciprocity, right? We are taught to give more than we receive. Like, it's almost like a pride thing, I think, too. Like when my auntie dropped something off in my house, I'm like, oh, she caught me off guard. So then I have to take her, if she brings me like a little pan of brownies, now I got to take her that pan of brownies back with a giant pot of soup I made, right? And then when that pot of soup comes back, it's like, there's like 10 pounds of smoked meat with it. And it becomes this again, I don't know, but that's Hawaiian economy. That's how we do it, And so.
But would it be weird for us to take a bag of corns to a Hawaiian family that lives close by
No.
and say,
You can ask them.
ask
Yeah.
them first. Is it important to know what varieties they are?
Yep. You got to know the story.
Okay.
Just like you guys brought food, you have to know the story of your food.
Yeah.
You have to know, okay. Most people don't, is what I'll say. But please try your best to learn who they are. And if you don't know, we have a resource right here. You can come and, hey, my picture, it looks like this one. This might be who it is. Okay, let's verify. Send me an email. Send the workers here an email. Hey, can you guys just verify? Is this really what we're looking at? There's resources. Luckily, you guys are close to an amazing one.
Well, this is where we got it from.
Oh, then it's easy to narrow down.
No, we just took ones. Oh,
Yeah.
this is a great one. It's a golden color. Just take that.
It didn't
Just
have
take
labels.
this one. But we didn't write down what they were.
So you can use B84. The problem with B84 doesn't have pictures yet. We're working on a revision of B84 that has pictures. My auntie from Maui is really leading that whole charge and Uncle Jerry was part of that project too. And but until that comes out, your best visual resource is probably kūpuna kalo online. type in kūpuna kalo. It'll have images. Now, take it with a grain of salt. They're not all accurate images, even though I love the guy who runs the page, Weston. But yeah, so there's that. Don't go to like the Bishop Museum page online. All of their pictures are wrong. Yeah.
I would propose that we keep talking.
No, let's go eat. No, we're done. Yeah. Mahalo.